Hi, this is just a really quick video. I've just finished a lesson with one of my students and we made this whiteboard together and we were talking about something really interesting. So I wanted to kind of share it because I feel like there's some really interesting information here. So this student is around B1. She's a B1 level student, very hard worker, very motivated to learn. She really enjoys learning English. And she moved up to intermediate probably about 6 months ago. And it's taking some time because her first language is very different from English, but she's making really good progress. And the last couple of lessons, we started looking at used to and would. So used to and would to talk about the past. And this was quite new for her. We'd talked about, the past simple and the past continuous and a little bit of past perfect. But these structures, used to and would, were completely new for her. And she found it quite difficult. What's the difference between a state? Why can't I use would to talk about a state? So, as in, when I was a child, I would believe in Father Christmas. You can't do that. When I was a child, I used to believe in Father Christmas. But I don't really want to go into this grammar as such. But we talked about a little bit what's the difference, used to, would, past simple. And we started talking about learner English in general and how when people are beginners, they say things like this in English. So I've worked a lot with beginners. When I taught in language schools, I worked a lot with beginners. And they say things like this. They come into class and they say things like, teacher, 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 I go prism. I go prism. I dance. I prism. And Prism, if you don't know, is a nightclub in Brighton where I live. And they have a student night there every Thursday. And so every Thursday, lots of students from my language school would go to Prism and they'd come into the school on Friday uh, with a headache, feeling quite tired. And so for a beginner, I go is all right for the past. Teacher, teacher, I go Prism. I go yesterday. I go. Or for the present, teacher, teacher, I go lunch. I go lunch now. Or for the future, teacher, teacher, I go London. Tomorrow, I go London. So the point is that when someone is a beginner student, okay, this is wrong. The grammar is wrong. But in terms of that beginner student explaining, it's okay because I know from the context if they are talking about the past, the present, or the future. So this language, we could say it gets the job done, but it's not very specific, right? We don't really know. We guess and we fill in the blanks for that student. And as the student moves up through pre A1 through into A1, they start to learn things like the past simple. So then they should be able to say things like, teacher, yesterday I went to Prism. Probably they would forget this. So it would be more like, teacher, teacher, I went Prism. Um, but you get the point that they've moved from using a present tense for everything to being able to use a past tense. And then at some point they have to learn this. So the present perfect, I have been to Prism many times. I don't like it, but I still go because it's free. Uh, and what's happening here is that the student is moving from having the ability to talk about something or use a structure to talk about everything, like here. The more grammar a student learns, the more nuances that student can express. So by the time we get to this B1 level of I used to or I would, in some ways, we could just say past simple, right? I went to prison when I lived in Brighton. But these two, this used to and would, it's more nuanced than the past simple. These two structures do something more complicated and more sophisticated than just the past simple. And this is why learning grammar is so important. It's grammar is not so that you can pass a test or so that you can, I don't know, complete the Murphy grammar book for your level or whatever. Grammar is all about helping you do this, become more and more and more sophisticated in the language that you can use and understand. And all these things over here, we were talking about this nuanced meaning. And I said, oh, well, but we can do this with vocabulary too. And then I gave my student this idiom to hit the dance floor. And my student says, I don't know that. That seems really strange. So then we looked at some lovely idioms with hit the dance floor to have a really good dance because you really like the DJ, hit the road, which is when you leave. You've got to leave because you've got a long drive, so you've got to hit the road. Hit the jackpot means to win something or to get really lucky. And if you hit the ground running, you start your project because you've already got everything ready. You can just start. So I really like this particular whiteboard because I think this is so appropriate for so many students. You know, I know grammar can be really difficult and it can be really boring if it's not looked at in the right way. But grammar is really helping you to do this. And vocabulary helps you to do this too. So all language learning really is taking you from a place of being able to talk about things in a very, very general way through to increasing levels of sophistication. And that is why I think grammar is important.